That Christmas, I was helping my granddaughter Emma arrange the homemade jams I'd brought, chatting about the snow in Bend. My son Daniel was refilling drinks, and my daughter-in-law Nora floated from guest to guest, her smile perfectly measured. I thought of the letters waiting on my desk back home, part of my Love Letters from Nowhere project. 74 years old, and still sending little pieces of myself out into the world, each envelope like a heartbeat. Then came the gifts. Names were called, ribbons untied, even the dog got a sweater. I waited politely, hands folded in my lap. Nora turned toward me, blinking as if just noticing. "Oh, we must have misplaced your gift." It landed like ice water down my back. Misplaced? My gift? Or me? I smiled faintly because what else could I do in a room full of witnesses? But inside, the words cracked something open. When did I stop being counted? Was it after his father Thomas died? Or the first year Daniel forgot to say happy birthday? I am Margaret Delaney, living alone in a weathered cedar house by Mirror Lake, Oregon. Winters here are cold but kind. Tonight, the cold came from somewhere else. Last night, the phone rang just as I was slipping the last letter of the week into its cream envelope. The screen lit up. Daniel, my son. The last time he called? I'd have to check the wall calendar. It was back in spring. Since then, just the usual short texts. "Busy today, Mom," or "We'll call later." And later usually meant never. I picked up after the third ring. "Hello, Mom." His voice came quick, like he was fitting me in between two Zoom meetings. "Hello, son." "How are you?" I asked, drawing out the question, part curious, part cautious. I'm good. Work's crazy, you know. End of the year. End of the year. I knew that kind of busy. Years ago, even when work was crazy, he'd still make time for at least one Sunday dinner. Now, a woman's voice floated in from his end. "Is that Mom?" "Tell her hi from me. Nora." Daniel repeated it like a checkbox. "Nora says hi." I smiled faintly. "Tell her I said hi too." Polite. Always polite. Just enough. Never more. "Anyway, Mom, the reason I'm calling..." He cleared his throat. "We were thinking maybe you could come up to Seattle for Christmas this year. Stay a few days. The whole family will be here." I leaned back slightly, eyes on the fog over the lake. "Christmas? It's been a while since I spent Christmas with you." "Yeah, Mom. I guess. It's time," he said. "It's time?" My heart pressed against that phrase. "I've been your mother for 74 years, son. When exactly did you decide it was time again?" A door creaked in the background, then a brighter voice. "Is that Grandma? Can I say hi?" "That's Emma." Daniel hesitated. She's in a rush, Em." I cut in. "Let her say hi if she wants, son." "Hi, Grandma." Emma's voice came through, warm and quick. "I miss you. I've been reading something that I think you'd like." I smiled. "I miss you too, sweetheart. Can't wait to hear about it." That's Emma, always finding a way to make me feel I still matter. Daniel slid back in, faster now. "So, should I get you a train ticket? Or are you driving?" "Let me think about it, son." "I'll let you know tonight," I said. "All right, Mom. Talk later." The call ended as quickly as it began. I stayed at the table, that last stamp still waiting. It's time. The words sat in my chest like a pebble I couldn't swallow. When did the Sunday dinners disappear? When did my son stop telling me stories in full and start delivering summaries? Was it the day Nora walked in with her unspoken rules about minimalism and slowly minimized me out of the picture? That afternoon, I went to the bookstore downtown. Warm light, the smell of new paper and coffee wrapping around me. I chose a navy hardbound sketchbook for Emma. For Daniel, a Steve Jobs biography. He'd like it, if not for the content then, for its professional presence. For Nora, a beige cashmere scarf to match the plant-based Instagram-ready aesthetic she wore so well. I wrapped each gift in brown paper, tying thin ribbon carefully. As I tied the last bow, my hands trembled, not from the cold, but from the quiet question in my mind. When they open these, will they really think of me? Or will they just see another object that fits their style? On Christmas Day, "Mom, you made it," Daniel said as I stepped inside. His hug was quick, polite, one arm, the other still holding his phone. The first thing I noticed wasn't the scent of pine from the tree. It was the perfection of it. Every silver ornament in perfect symmetry, white ribbon cascading just so. No handmade ornaments from the kids, no mismatched baubles like the ones Daniel used to hang crooked when he was 7. Too perfect. Like a magazine page you can't touch. Nora appeared from the kitchen, hair perfectly smoothed back, wineglass in hand. "Margaret, welcome." "Long drive?" "6 hours," I said, brushing snow from my coat. "Impressive," she replied with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You must be tired." "Here, let me show you your seat." She led me to the dining room. The main table gleamed, gold flatware, crystal glasses, candles flickering. Each place card printed in neat calligraphy. My name was there, but not among them. Instead, my seat was at the very end, next to the hallway that led to the downstairs bathroom. The chair was different, wooden, scuffed, its cushions sagging. From here, I could see steam rising from the main dishes, but by the time the platters reached me, the food was warm at best. "Hope you don't mind sitting there," Nora said sweetly, setting down my plate. "Gives you a little extra elbow room." Elbow room. Or just out of frame in their perfect dinner photos. The others filled the space with fast talk, stock options, ski trips, home renovations. I tried to join in once, mentioning a book I'd just finished, but Nora smiled thinly. "Oh, I haven't read a real book in years. Podcasts are so much more efficient. Conversation slid right past me. My fork scraped against porcelain. The duck was tender but cool. The quinoa salad, dotted with pomegranate seeds, had gone limp. I wondered if my plate had waited on the counter while the others were served. When dessert was cleared, Nora clapped her hands. "All right, time for gifts." Wrapping paper flew, laughter rose. Emma's eyes lit up over a Polaroid camera. Her little brother cheered over a smartwatch. Daniel unwrapped a leather briefcase. Nora twirled in a new designer coat. Even their golden retriever Milo got a plush bone with a red bow. The pile in front of me stayed empty. Nora glanced over, then tilted her head with a small laugh. "Oh, we must have misplaced yours, Margaret. Things get so busy this time of year." "You understand." Daniel cleared his throat but didn't meet my eyes. The others kept chatting, tearing paper, posing for photos. I sat back in my chair. The old wood creaked under me, hands folded in my lap. The scent of pine from the tree had faded. What lingered was the sharp tang of being. Optional. Misplaced. Such a tidy little word for forgotten on purpose. Dessert plates had just been cleared when Nora, my daughter-in-law, refilled her wine and leaned back in her chair. "So, Mom," she began, smiling like a polite hostess, "how's life in, what do you call it? Your little lake cabin?" I set my cup down. "It's quiet," peaceful Daniel, my son, chuckled. "I bet." "No traffic, no noise. Probably still using that old flip phone, huh, Mom?" "Flip phone? You mean the one I kept so I could call you the night your father was in the hospital? And you didn't answer?" Lauren, one of their friends, joined in with a light laugh. "Sounds like heaven. No tech, no hassle. Wish I could unplug like that unplug. As if being left out was a lifestyle choice I made for fun." Nora tilted her head toward me. "You must save a fortune, Mom." No online shopping sprees, no fancy dinners. Low maintenance all the way, Daniel grinned at her comment. "Yeah, Mom's easy." "No pressure to impress easy. If that's what you call it when you forget my birthday, son, then I guess I am." The conversation kept flowing. Ski trips, investment returns, some juice cleanse they were all excited about. I glanced down at my plate. The last spoonful of dessert sat there, the cream sinking into the sponge, cold now, like the duck earlier. Emma, my granddaughter, looked up at me. She didn't laugh at their jokes. Instead, she twisted the bracelet I gave her 3 Christmases ago. At least she remembered. Nora tapped her glass with a manicured finger. You know, Mom, you should join me at one of my mindfulness retreats. It's all about letting go of old attachments. I smiled faintly. Old attachments, Nora? Yes, my daughter-in-law replied brightly. It's healthy to clear space for new things. New things. New people. And I suppose I'm the old to clear away. Daniel laughed under his breath. Maybe they could teach you how to use a meditation app, Mom. Bring you into the 21st century. I sipped my tea slowly, letting the bitterness settle. Son, you talk about the 21st century like you've discovered it yourself, but you left mine a long time ago. I looked at them, my son, my daughter-in-law, their friends, all so comfortable, and I realized something I should have faced years ago. If they can forget me this easily, I can stop waiting to be remembered. It only took the sound of one small book hitting the carpet to change the temperature of the whole room. I'd stepped outside for something from the car, but really I just needed air. While I was gone, Emma, my granddaughter, was by the coffee table, tidying the gifts I'd brought. She shifted my tote bag, and a small leather notebook slid out, landing on the carpet with a dull thump. Emma bent down, curious, and opened it. Her eyes caught on the first line. Some days, the only thing that keeps us here is knowing someone, somewhere, remembers we're still alive. She froze, recognizing the words. She'd seen them before, but not here, not in my handwriting. Emma? What's that? Emma flinched at the voice. Nora, my daughter-in-law, was walking in from the kitchen, drying her hands with a white linen towel. It's Grandma's notebook, Emma said softly, her fingers tightening around it before slowly passing it over. I think it's her writing. Nora took it, flipping the pages with a kind of measured slowness. Her eyes narrowed slightly, scanning the looping handwriting. I've seen this before, she murmured, almost to herself, but just loud enough for Daniel, my son, to catch. He was still half distracted, scrolling his phone. What is it? These lines, Nora said, turning another page. They're from Love Letters from Nowhere. That project all over the senior living magazines. I read about it last fall. Her voice sharpened, the linen towel now forgotten in her hand. She turned to the very back of the notebook and stopped. Tucked inside was a printed email. The bold header was unmistakable. Invitation to appear Silver Years podcast. Daniel's scrolling stopped mid-swipe. He leaned forward, his phone lowering slowly as if gravity had taken over. Wait. That's a real show. Nora. Is that saying... This is... Daniel took the notebook from her, flipping a few pages quickly. Mum? She's the one writing these. His voice was half question, half accusation. Daniel, think about it, Nora said. People love these letters. They share them, quote them. They go viral in senior groups. This could be huge. I didn't even know Mom was doing this, my son said flatly. Exactly, Nora replied. And look how far it's gone without her even trying. Imagine if it had a website, sponsorships, mailing lists. Marketing, my son cut in. Yes, Nora said. We could package it, get press coverage, maybe even a book deal. All it needs is direction, and we could handle that. Daniel snorted. Handle? Mum's been writing this for how long? Years? And not a word to us? Which makes it even better, Nora pressed. It's authentic. Untouched. We can build the brand around that mystery. From nowhere, we make it a movement. Daniel's eyes flicked toward the front door, tension creeping into his jaw. Yeah, but she never told us. No, son, I didn't. I've buried a husband, but tonight I think I'm about to bury your illusions. I stepped back into the room and found Nora and Daniel holding my notebook. I didn't snatch it away. Instead, I stood there, long enough for them to realize I was watching. I know what you're thinking, I said, my voice steady. Mom's been sitting by the lake, feeding ducks, waiting for calls. You think this Happened by accident? Daniel opened his mouth, but I raised my hand. No, son. You listen now. I took a step closer, looking at both of them. I built this in the dark, on nights you didn't call. On Christmases you forgot. I learned every button, every screen, every strange word, SEO, landing page, autoresponder, alone. And every letter I sent, every reply I got, was a reminder that people, strangers even, could care more than family who shares your blood. Nora pressed her lips together, about to speak, but I didn't let her. You want to market it? Scale it. Where were you when I was scaling the walls of my own loneliness? Where were you when the only applause I got was from a widow in Ohio telling me she didn't end her life because of a letter I wrote? Silence. Only the soft crackle from the fireplace. A business can be built by anyone with money. But this... I rested my hand on the notebook. This was built with grief, hope, and the stubbornness to keep breathing when no one noticed. That doesn't go on sale. Daniel lowered his eyes, his fingers tapping his thigh like he didn't know what else to do with them. Nora looked away, her polite smile gone. I turned to Emma, still standing in the corner, her eyes wide but warm. Daughter, I said to her, you don't wait for people to open the door for you. You build your own. And leave it wide open for the ones who truly want to come in. Then I looked back at my son and daughter-in-law. Family isn't about showing up when there's something to take. It's about being there when there's nothing but need. And if you can't do that, then be honest and call it what it is. Business. I slid the notebook into my bag and picked up my tea. And I'm not in that business. The room went still. No one moved. But I knew every word I'd just said would linger long after tonight was over. I didn't slam their door, but I made sure it would never be open the same way again. I zipped my coat slowly, giving the room one last glance. Daniel stood by the fireplace, staring into it, like the flames might offer him a way back into the conversation we'd just had. Nora busied herself in the kitchen, the clink of dishes a little too sharp, like she wanted the noise to cover the silence I'd left in her. Emma walked me to the door, her hands buried in her hoodie pocket. Grandma, I think what you're doing is amazing, she whispered. I smiled, pressing a hand to her cheek. Then remember it, daughter. Remember that you don't have to be invited to live your life. I slipped a small envelope into her palm. For your books. She hugged me, longer than necessary, warmer than I expected. Come visit me, she said. Not them. Just me, I stepped out into the cold air. The night smelled of pine and frost, the kind of scent that wakes you up from the inside. My boots crunched over the driveway gravel as I walked to my car. Behind me I could hear the muted hum of voices, but no one called out my name. The engine started with a low purr. I didn't look back. The road ahead was dark but open, the kind of open that makes you want to keep going. 20 minutes later, the first text came from Daniel, then another from Nora. I let them stack up, the phone screen lighting the passenger seat. Instead, I turned on the radio, soft jazz like the kind Ed and I used to play after dinner. The sound filled the car, and for the first time all evening, so did peace. On the drive back, the snow thickened, wrapping across the windshield in blurred white strokes. Each time another car's headlights passed, I caught a glimpse of my own face reflected in the glass. The lines, the years etched there, but also the proof that I'd made it this far, on my own. At a small gas station along the highway, I pulled over. Inside, the cafe was nearly empty, the only sound the hiss and click of the coffee machine. I sat with a cup of hot tea, watching my phone light up again. Daniel. Mum, can we talk? Then Nora. We didn't mean it that way. I left them unread. Not because I couldn't hear them anymore, but because I no longer needed patched-up words. Through the window, a young family came in, their child clutching a stuffed bear. And I thought of Emma, her eyes when she hugged me at the door. That was the real reason I kept writing. To leave behind a trace of love that was true, not an apology that arrived too late. Back in the car, I breathed in the sharp night air and felt the hollow in my chest, not frozen anymore, but filling with something steadier. By the time I reached home, I knew I was ready to name the new door I'd built for myself. When I got home, I made tea, sat at my desk, and opened my laptop. A blank page stared back at me, waiting. I titled it, The Door I Built Myself. And then I began to write. I write not to defend myself, not to prove them wrong, but to remind myself that I had always been right to begin with. The words came sharp and clear. A woman is not defined by who calls her, but by the life she builds when no one calls. She is not kept alive by invitations, but by the doors she builds with her own hands and the courage to walk through them alone. Every letter, every sentence, felt like another brick in a monument I'd been building for years, one they'd never noticed until tonight. I thought of all the women sitting in quiet rooms, believing they were forgotten, and I wrote for them. I thought of every young girl who would one day stand where I stood tonight, and I wrote for her too. Because freedom is not given, it's claimed. Respect is not handed out, it's earned. And dignity? That is something no one can take from you, unless you set it down yourself. When I signed the page, I didn't feel small, or hidden, or left out. I felt unstoppable. And somewhere out there, another woman would read these words, lift her head, and realize she could be unstoppable too. So, that's how the story ends. If this made you think, or if you've lived through something similar, share your thoughts in the comments. Our channel is a space for sharing tales of the elderly and family revenge stories from people who have weathered life's storms. Subscribe to the channel for more, because sometimes the deepest form of revenge is simply living on your own terms.